Model Making Guru is sponsored by emodels.co.uk. Make something awesome. Hey everybody, it's Fox from modelmakingguru.com here. Hello and welcome to the next exciting instalment of my partwork build of DeAgostini Collectibles 1/6 scale Ford GT, a legend of the competizione. Yes, we've been working on this for a while. We're up to issues 49 to 52. Couldn't remember the number then. And if you're not familiar with this, it's a partwork where month in, month out, you get parts and magazines. The magazines contain lots of lore about, in this case, Ford, not just the GT40, but Ford and Ford racing and history of Ford and things like that. You also get the instructions and you get parts. And each month you build a small number of bits and bobs. And at the end of it, you've got a whole mass of magazines with loads of information. And you've got a beautiful 1/6 scale Ford GT40 in the lovely Gulf colours. Now, in this episode and going forward, I was going to do one pack each video, and a pack is 5 magazines with all the relevant parts. Each month you get one pack. However, this pack, there's not much to it. Literally, the first magazine was, let me show you. First magazine, you get 2 parts. Put that bit in there. Done. That's issue 49. Issue 50. Issue 50. You get 2 bits. Put that bit on there, like that. That's it. So there's not a lot to it. So in this entire pack, I had to build the other front wheel and then stick a tyre on it. Now, and then put the tyre on the other wheel as well. The other front wheel already built. Now, I didn't want to show you all that again, and it would have taken about 2 minutes because there's like 6 parts in the wheel. So I didn't bother with that, but I will show you putting the tyre on. However, to make this not a 2-minute episode, I'll actually cobble the next pack in with this one. So we'll do a double pack issue. So issues 53 onwards. So what I'll do, I'll get everything together and we'll put this to one side. I've done one wheel. I've put the tyre on. And it's not as simple as you think. You don't just slip the tyre onto the wheel. You need to use the worms. So I'll go and get everything ready and we'll do this and then we'll move on to the next pack. So let's get this done. Okay, so for this step, all you need is some boiling water from the kettle, the tyre, which goes into the boiling water. Be careful with hot water, by the way, of course. And then we wait. Now, this is quite common with a lot of partworks. When you get the tyres to go on the wheel, they're a massively tight fit so that the tyre doesn't just come back off again. So you have to heat them up, expand them, you can slide them on the wheel, and then they lock into place and cool down. Now, one thing you might find with this, and this is something I had to go and do, when you assemble your wheels, you may find you have a gap between the 2 halves. I did on my other wheel, and I had one when I was putting this together. And I found that caused problems for the tyre going on. It made it a bit more tricky because it's further apart. So what I would say is when you built your wheels, cover them in a towel and just very gently with a hammer, ideally a rubber mallet or something, just knock them together so that the 2 halves of this wheel lock into place and leave you with no gap. They are a very tight fit when you build it, and there might be a gap around one end, one side, or they might not go together perfectly. Just do that with a bit of cloth or a towel and just gently bonk it together. A rubber mallet would be great, or if you've got a hammer, just make sure you cover it in something soft and just make it all fit, and that means you should have a bit easier time putting your tyre on, because if those two are split apart a little bit, you're going to have problems. So this needs to keep warming. I'm going to have a fiddle with it and see how it's doing. It's not quite soft and flexible yet. It will go soft and flexible slowly. I'm going to turn it over the other way around. You just want it to go wibbly wobbly enough that it will be easier to get on the wheel. I have heard people having great trouble with this, but like I say, once I bonked the 2 halves of the wheel together and got rid of any gaps, it was fine. So we'll just see if this warms. Now, if you haven't done a partwork before, I do recommend this partwork. I found it to be kind of easy compared to my other partworks. It's not particularly a stressful build. There's some tricky bits, but it's more coordinating your hands to do 3 different things at once. I've not found any major problems with it. It does seem to be a bit more of a beginner-friendly partwork. Plus, if you like the GT40 and you're into all that, then it's a bit of a no-brainer. Yes, that's getting a bit softer. Nice and squidgy. Little bit longer. Just be careful with your hot water again. Don't just go sticking your hands in boiling water. It's from, well, this isn't from, we don't have a kettle. We have one of them big stand-up Burco things where it keeps the water hot all day. So it's from that. So it's about 80 degrees, I think, something like that, 75, 80 degrees, something along those lines. So that should be long enough. So this is what we're aiming for. Of course, having the words on the outside of the wheel, not on the inside. So let's get this out. Dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. And it's going to be a bit of a fight. It might be a bit of a fight. It might be dead easy. I don't know. We shall find out. And all you want to do, again, make sure you're going to have it that way around. And you want to push the end in like that. I hope this is on camera because it's a one-time deal. To kind of get it to slot in. And then just, if you've ever had a bike when you're a kid and you've got to get the tyre on, it's a bit like that. You've got to kind of fight it and convince it. Work your way around. If it's really putting a fight up, just put it in the water for a bit longer. Let it warm up a bit more. But it will just slowly flip itself on. You've got a little lip on the sides of this tyre. And once it goes on, they will hold it in place around the rim. So there we are, we're nearly done. It's not actually that hard. If you've got arthritis in your hands and you've not got a strong grip, you are going to struggle. You're going to have to get somebody else to do it for you, perhaps. If you've got a reasonable grip, you should be all right. There we go. That is on, and that's it. I was actually dreading this part because I thought it was going to take like 100 minutes. 100 minutes, that's a weird thing to say. Take forever to get on and be an absolute nightmare. But it's not. So that's that done. We've now got both front wheels and they look fantastic. Look absolutely gorgeous. They're very heavy. These are solid rubber. So what we need to do now is just put this onto, we'll put these both back onto the subframe. Now, if you remember, we did this in the last episode, so I'm not going to show you that. It's going to go on the same way as the other wheel. So what I'll do is I'll go and get that done. And then when we come back, we'll start the next pack, which should be issue 53 onwards. So, quick recap. Everything you saw me do in the last video, we've had to do in this video, as well as make the wheel. And now we'll stick this on. So, it's nice and warm. Warm and... yeah, it's a nice winter thing to do. If you're doing this in the summer, this would be a nightmare because you have a big hot bowl of water. Right, I'll go and put these wheels on the subframe. And when we come back, it'll be issue 53. Back in a minute. Now, before we get cracking with this next pack, I forgot to mention, in the last pack, we got one of our free gifts. Yes, we got this gorgeous little scale model, and I think it's one, I can't remember what scale it is now, 144th, 148th? I can't remember. Anyway, beautiful Ford GT40 Mark IV, number 1. Look at that. Die cast, beautiful paint job, lovely, lovely smooth decals on there. They've really done a good job with that. And it actually looks like a scale extric car, but it's heavier than that because it's solid metal. But yes, it's got a fully detailed interior. You can't really see it because it's a bit dark and reflective. But yeah, that's the gift we get with this. Now, I was getting the 143rd scale, that's it. I was getting the 143 scale cars from the Fast and Furious, but I only got the first couple of issues of that. And this is the same scale and the same sort of basic look. So yeah, really, really nice. So that's one of the freebies that you get with this magazine. So I'll put that back in the box. Get back in your box. Now, we've got quite a bit to do in this next pack because we've got to be able to put this back in the box for a start. We've got to marry up the cockpit with the chassis or with the floor. We've got to be able to get this in the hole, get back in your box, and get all that sorted out. And then we start making the spare wheel. There we go, that's that. So I'll put this to one side and I'll get all the bits ready and we'll start marrying up the cockpit and the floor. Okay, so this is going to be tricky to film because it takes place using the floor pan, the cockpit and the subframe that we've already made. So state of this desk, it's a bomb site when I do Partwork. And we've not got many parts for this Partwork. We've got a couple of the hose line for the brake, and we've got a bit of plastic I don't need. And we've got the steering bar, this torsion bar thing. And that's it. But it's all about attaching everything else that we've already made. So what we need to do, first of all, according to the instructions, is retrieve the chassis plate and interior assemblies. Place the interior onto the chassis by aligning the 4 holes with the corresponding posts. So we have posts. If this is a lot of the back of my head, by the way, I do apologise. So we have now. I have to also make sure. Yes, I had a panic moment earlier. we have to take the battery cover off, and I had this panic moment that I glued it in place. Yeah, best not to glue things in place, not just yet. So we have these 4 posts here, making sure not to trap any wires. Oh, it's fairly easy, the holes are in the corners so I can see them. Back of my head warning, back of my head warning. Oh, that's not lined up, that's... is that lined up? Now I have to tell you, I'm struggling a bit today because I've made the terrible mistake of the last couple of days watching Claudius. Now it's a wonderful, fantastic work of art. It's the best TV drama you'll ever watch. Trust me. Where does this wire go? Find this wire goes. Best drama you'll ever watch. But the big caveat is the theme tune is the worst, absolute worst earworm you will ever hear in your entire life. And it's been stuck in my head for about 2 days. Right, where does this cable go? It comes out from under there, maybe? No, it seems to come out from... It's not really clear exactly where these cables are supposed to come out from. Take the battery box off the last screw. So that goes in there. The cables just seem to flop out there at the side. That one comes out through that run. On the other side, let's get these cables in, this screws in first. So I need, which screws do I want? FD ones, they're metal screws. So we'll need a smidge of oil. So get the FD01 screws. Where's them? There it is. FD01. It's hard to film these things when you start doing the big stuff. It's easy when you're doing the little stuff because you just film it in little bits. But so we've got 1 screw in there. Little touch of oil just to make it easier to get it in. I won't do it too tight just yet. I just want to get it in first. Actually really hard to see if it's gone in at all. Oops. Putting metal screws in a metal tray with a magnetic screwdriver. Always a winner. Yes, I've got the Claudius theme in my head and it won't go away. It kept me awake all last night. It's a nightmare. It really is. It's just a very simple little tune, but it's like, oh. Right, so that one's going in quite nicely. This one I'm not so, I think it's in. Hope on camera. Oh, there we go. There we go. That's in nicely. Nicely tightly. So I've got my cables coming out here under there, and I've got this one just kind of hanging loose. Hang loose. And over here, I haven't actually got my plastic hole things lined up. Why is that not lined up? What are we caught on over here, ladies? Is he caught on something, or are you just a weird fit? That's kind of strange. What's catching there? It might just be a very tight fit. I don't know, but you can see it's quite a gap there. I mean, the screw will hold it in place, but there's clearly something's not. Let me get my torch. Something's not quite right somewhere. It's not abundantly clear. And there are wires in there, but it could be that wire that's catching. Let me get my tweezers. Can't actually see what I'm doing. Doesn't really help. There's a wire in there, and it might be nothing to do with that at all. Tell you what we'll do. Let's get those screws back out again. Hey, screwdriver. Let's get these back out again. Just want to make sure it's not a wire catching on something that's stopping it clicking into place, because you don't want to force wires. That's never a good idea. Let's get this one out first. That's easier. So that's out there. There we go. That's one. There we go. Right. So what's catching in there, ladies? Come on. We've got the wire going from there to there. Why are you being obstreperous? again. That's in, that's in. That seems a little better. That's better. Okay. I don't know what that was. I jiggled the wire around, but it wasn't really fouling on anything, so so what we'll do, we'll get these screws back. We'll just loosely put them in. Corner. That one there first, a little bit. We'll do, oops, one on this end. It's the battery cover again. Again, a little touch of oil. Oil just makes it easier when you're putting a metal screw into a metal thing. It just gives it a little less fight. And trust me, when I was doing the X-Wing, where's that screw come from? What? That's weird. Yeah, when I was doing the X-Wing, that was a right nightmare. Because it was a lot of really tight fitting screws. It was not a pleasant experience, all the screws on that. So that was fun. So oil really helped me out on that one. This can go in here. Hopefully that's lined up. I'm hoping. Yes, I think it's giving. I think it's doing what it's supposed to do. There we go, that's better. It seems to be, or it seemed to be, it was just some of the wires that were underneath the seats. They just run along the inside of the floor pan. But there are obviously the ribs in the floor pan. And I think they were just on top of the ribs and not in the little recess. That's that one. That's that one. And you don't want any fit issues with things like the chassis and the floor and the cockpit, because if this isn't incorrectly, your body ain't going to fit. And then you're going to have sad factory. Major sad factory. Right, that's them two. Get that on there. Let's turn this around so I can get a good grip. Kaplink. Also, whoops, there go all my screws. Lovely jubbly. Any more? No, I think that's it. This, yeah. My bench just turned into a bomb site when I'm doing part works, because you have so many screws and screwdrivers and tools and things lying around. It gets a bit messy. And of course the problem is, that's not gripping. Get in. The problem is, I've got no way to test the electrics yet. So if anything's gone horribly wrong down there, I won't know until I plug it all together and it doesn't work. Hey. Right, so that is in. We've got the cockpit now assembled onto the floor plate. Got the wires out there. Nothing fell out or broke. I can put the battery cover back on. I think I can go back on there. Covered up, that is the screw hole. We have to hope that all the electrics work. Right, so now I've got wires dangling everywhere. It's a right pain. So that's that bit. Okay, next up we need to attach the subframe that we made onto the floor plate here. It sits here on these two pegs and these two holes at the front. Now it is tricky to line up, so persevere. You've got to get these two sticky up pegs lining up with the two recesses there, and they can get fouled and cause you problems. So let's just see if we can get this to sit in place. Make sure they're not trapped underneath, just like they are. Are you going in? Can I see the back of my head, I'm afraid. Where are we? It's quite tricky to do the lining up. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. You have to kind of get the wheels out of the way, because the wheels want to get in the way. Right, I think that's in. So what you're going to do is you're going to fix that in place with two FD screws, two FD whatever they are. So we'll get that done. Okay, so that's done. Now, one thing they don't mention in the magazine is that when you're putting the wheels on, the rod that sticks up at the back of the wheel, that needs to go into the steering arm that connects to the steering wheel, because that's what's going to turn the wheels together. So that big sticky up rod needs to go into the hole. It doesn't say that anywhere, but it's fairly obvious that's where it needs to go. Now, we need to sort the steering stabilizer bar out. So what we need to do is add some lower suspension arms. And these are just little plastic doohickeys that click onto the end of the steering thingies. I know all the technical terms. And then we need the actual stabilizer arm, which goes on the other end. So that goes like that, and that clicks on like that. There you go. Now that's a wibbly wobbly loose fit. But what we need to do now is mount it in place. And you're going to have two of these little brackets, and they're going to go in there. So we need 2 FD01 screws. Now, I don't know if I've just dropped a lot of screws, but it said that I'll need to attach each of these with an FD01 screw. And in my collection of FD01 screws, which I should just put over there, I had 2 of them, 2 left. So either I've dropped a load when I pinged them all out, or I didn't get enough. But it doesn't matter, because as you know, the trick is to save your screws. I'm doing this at a funny angle now, aren't I? It's not good for me. So I had loads of them spare. So it's not a problem at all. I've got loads of FDs. They're one of the most common screws, so it's not a problem. Now I'm at a funny angle here, so I might look like I'm absolutely chumping my way through screwing these in, but it's because I'm at a funny angle for filming, and it's not exactly ideal. That's the one there. Get the other one in. Did a little bit of oil on the screw because it's a D screw going to metal. This is a very badly filmed episode, I do apologise. Camera's in all the wrong places. Sounds probably terrible. That's that one in there. Can't actually see what I'm doing because I'm at the wrong angle. It's all gone wrong. Right, so I'll get the other screws on, but yeah, we're going to screw these in. And that just means then that when these wheels turn, that stabiliser will be locked in place, and it'll help those wheels turn equally and the same amount. When you turn the steering wheel, they won't wobble around a bit, and this will just help keep it all locked in place. So I'll go and get these other 2 screws put in, and then we're on to the next step, which I think is some of the ducting up at the top. Back in a second. Okay, and with that bar now fully screwed in place, we just need to attach attach the subframe to the floor with 6 FP screws into the points around the floor pan. I'll get that done now and then move on to the next step. Right, so that's the subframe installed, and I hope you can see what I was saying earlier on. You've got the vertical rods on the back of the disc brakes here going into the steering rack. It does actually tell you this a bit later on in the instructions, but not when you're actually putting the wheels on. But yeah, you've got those vertical rods locking into the steering rack, and if I try and turn it, I can't quite get my hand in the cockpit because of all the wires, but you can see now, hopefully, if I turn the steering wheel, we've got turny wheels, and it's quite good because it's quite a firm turn. And the thing that surprises me is on the Dodge Charger, the steering assembly was so complicated with so many little bits of metal rods and plastic rods, and some of the screws didn't quite fit in the plastic rods and little, the arms and stuff, and it was very shaky and wobbly, and it wasn't very sturdy at all. And yet on this top tier racing car, they've just got 1 stabilizer bar, and that's it. They've got the steering rack, bar, done. Such a simple setup. Now we need to put the cooling tubes for the air into the area here, and these go from that bit there, the intake, onto this chunk on the wheel. As far as I can see how this works, I'm not quite sure. I think it goes like this. I think that sits on the wheel. Let's see if that was this work. I've confused myself now. It needs to sit like there. Okay, so you've got a solid end here. That needs to go onto the back of the wheel somehow, apparently. Not quite sure how. So just click on. That sits on. That can't be right, surely. Can it be right? It must be. That's the way it says. Let me turn this round so I can see what I'm doing. this must just lock over a bit on the back of the wheel, which isn't very forgiving. It's a big plastic thing. Not sure how I'm supposed to snap that on there. Go on, you can do it. Maybe that's on, and then that just spins onto there. That doesn't seem to want to fit. Is that the right one or is that the wrong one? Let's take that off. Seems a bit of a shonky way. That was the wrong one. Seems a bit of a shonky way of doing it. Right, that goes on there like... Now I'm completely confused. What? That was the right one. That goes on there. Okay, so that was the right one. So that needs to go on top of there and then fit around what? There, like... I don't understand. This is not making much sense. So that does go on there. You just have to force it on. It's like a little mushroom shape that you put in on the wheel, on the back of the brake disc. And I guess this is the cooling for the brake discs, which makes sense. Take it from the intake. But it's got to be firm enough that it doesn't come off when you try and... That seems like a real rough connection point. It's just like... It doesn't really fit very well. And if I try and turn the wheel, it's just going to come off. What? Well, that makes no sense. How is that even supposed to work? Right, just very quickly, I loosened this a bit and pulled these cables out, and I had a bit of a jiggle with this tube and I got it to fit a bit better. The tricky bit is you've got the little bit of plastic stick between this silver part and the floor pan, and then you've got a little socket in the plastic tube that needs to go around that pin, that peg, and that wasn't lined up. So I just jiggled around with it a bit, got it in place, and then popped that bit on. So it's a very strange fit. That one is ripped, that cable, but it's fine. So I think now these are on properly, I can turn the wheels and they don't tend to come off much. So I think we'll be all right. I'm not going to make a habit of turning the wheels anyway. But yeah, what a weird design. Anyway, that's all sorted. On to the next step. Okay, so on to issue 54, and we're working on the grille, the front grille, the radiator grille. We've got to install the front light, which isn't actually a clear part. It's just a solid candy chrome red painted piece. And this needs to sit on the front of the grille like that. It's got a little bar that locks it in place, and that's held in place with one tiny screw. I'll tell you which screw in a second. It is an FP05 screw. We just need to get that in there. It's a bit tricky to keep hold of because everything's small and smooth and shiny. And it's a really small screw as well, which doesn't help because I've not got the right screwdriver for it. I think I've got a small one somewhere, but I don't know where. This just needs to lock onto radiator grille, and it says post, and pin. Oh, there's a little pin there on the end of the grille that needs to go into that hole there. So that's how you know which way around to do it. So 2 posts into there and that into there, and you knock the camera, and there we go. That is now that bit installed. That completes issue 54. Okay, so issue 55, and we just need to complete assembling the grille. Now this should locate. How does this locate? This locates that way around and goes like that or that. Which way around does this go? That way. No. You've got 2 little bars on the grille there. They need to line up with the little bars there. That's how you know you've got it the right way around. So that sits like that. And we need to fix that in place with 2 FP01 screws here and here. But before we do that, I have a secret note. A secret note. I always like to put a secret note or Easter egg in all my builds somewhere. So someday when somebody opens this, somebody drops this and breaks it for some reason, they'll find a secret note. And there's also an eyelash. Go away. I did that on my Dodge Charger. There's something I think built into the radiator grille, a secret note. I've no idea what it says, I can't remember. But I always put a little message or a note on my models. Either if it's like, it might be something that I write on the inside of a model, like on a tank I might write it on the inside of the body shell that you can never get to. On the Millennium Falcons I tend to write it inside the body shell, again where you'll never see it. Sometimes if I can, I'll do a physical note. I've done a few Bane blades where there's an actual piece of paper inside the Bane blade hidden away, built into something. You're not going to find it just by opening it up. You'd have to destroy the model. Every time I build a model to sell it, I make sure there's a note in there somewhere. I'll probably never sell this because it's too big, but anyway, that's that on. Now we need to attach this piece here, you'll see. Position the radiator box so 2 holes fit over the posts on the rear of the radiator, like that. I think it's got an edge, so I assume it's that way around. Yes, it shows the holes on the inside, so the holes on the inside there, which tells you it's that way around with the sticky out bit. So that sits on. That's a very snug fit. That's not coming off. The 2 protrusions on the radiator must fit into the holes on the box. I didn't read that bit. There's also 2 little, yeah, you can't get it the wrong way around basically. So that's that bit. So now we need to attach this to the actual body of the car. So I'll go and get that and we'll do the next step. Okay, so now it's just a case of putting the radiator with those 2 pegs into these 2 holes here, into the actual body of the car. And then with the delicate balancing act and forgetting to put the screw on the screwdriver, this is then held in place with 2 FP01 screws. So we'll get these screwed in. And then I think we're on to the last couple of steps then. Okay, so that's the radiator all locked in place. We now need to attach the radiator hoses. We've got the long one with the nubbins on the end. And the short one, I can't grab it. Depth perception's gone to whack. These need to go into the 2 holes on the block there. And it's just at the wrong angle for me to be able to do this. So this probably isn't going to work on camera. I may have to do it off camera. But we need to basically get that in there somehow and apply pressure whilst trying to be on camera. This may not work. I may have to go and be elsewhere when I do it because it's not the right angle for me. But it's a good angle for you to see what I'm doing. Oh, it might be in. Hang on. Nope, it's come out. Curses. Try that. Oh, there we go. That might be. Ooh, could be on to a winner. There we go. That's in. And I need to do the same with the bottom hose, so I'll do that in a minute. But I'll get that one put in, and then I think we're on to the last couple of issues, and the last issue is nothing at all. So let's have a look at the next issue. Back in a second. Now, the next issue is issue 56. And in issue 56, we receive the spare tyre. And the assembly step for issue 56 is look at the spare tyre. This concludes issue 56. And the last issue in this pack is issue 57. Are you ready? This concludes issue 57. Yes, there's not a lot to do with these last 2. Just look at the tyre and put that on there. You can see the next issue, is this 57 or 58? 57. You can see that issue 58 and 59 are going to be assembling the rest of the spare wheel and then putting the tyre on it. But that's the end of this pack, and that's the end of both packs. So let me go and get the chassis back, and we'll just have a look at where we're up to before we wrap this up. Okay, with issues 56 and 57 put off to one side, this is where we're up to so far. We've finally got the cockpit in on the floor pan, and it's starting to give me flashbacks to the Dodge Charger when I had half of the chassis built and bits and bobs on it, and it's starting to have a lot more car-like look. Now it's also starting to get to the heavy stage, which is interesting. Now, how much is left to do on this? I mean, we're on what, issue 58 now. We're about halfway through, I would guess. And we've only built this much. And I said at the start, this is kind of a simple project compared to, say, the Dodge Charger. By this point in the Dodge Charger, we'd spent ages building a complicated chassis. So given the fact that now all that's left really I can think is the rear wheels and suspension, the engine, and then the body shell, I think we're going to have a big chunk of episodes just where we're building the engine, because a lot of detail will go into that. And then the body shell, so it's not going to be like too involved. This is just a spare wheel area. It's not got an engine in there, it's in the back. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this build because it is so straightforward. It's not complicated, it's not confusing or stressful. Of course, it looks sometimes challenging when something doesn't quite fit or I'm struggling a bit, but you have to remember I'm trying to film it at the same time, and that often makes things a lot more complicated. Whereas, you know, you might get these hoses on within minutes and just go, oh, there you go, it's done. I'm, of course, having to film it and talk to you at the same time, so it makes it look a lot more complicated than it is, but it's not. This is a delightfully simple build, and I'm really enjoying every minute of it. It's going to sit in there like that, you see. That's going to go on there. That's going to sit on there like that, yeah. Anyway, that's going to do us for this episode. So big massive thank you to the folks at DeAgostini for providing this. We've got through 2 packs today. I've got 3 packs left to go in my backlog, so the next video should be up hopefully in the next few days with either another 1 or 2 packs, depending on how much there is in each pack. It might be a double pack or it might be just the one, but a big, again, thank you to the guys and girls at DeAgostini. Of course, if you'd like to support this channel, if you've enjoyed this and you want to keep me making more content, I do this for my living. So if you'd like to help keep the channel alive and support me, you can. You can go to patreon.com/modelmakingguru and support me on there, or you can press the join button under any of my videos or this one and become a channel member and support me that way. But at the very least, make sure to like and subscribe and, you know, leave a comment and hit the notification bell. Until then, though, I shall say thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourself. Go make something awesome like this. Go be awesome. And until next time, adios, amigos.